as a woman, if you really want something, and you are clear on what that is, then you do it.
That's simple.
You just do it. Because you know that you're going to be, because you know it's going to be serving your community, it's going to be serving, you know, the world around you. So yeah, just do it.
Love it. So just do it. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So the idea of the show, if you don't know us yet, if you don't know Social Media Lab, is to really help women entrepreneurs to share more of their personal stories so that they can position themselves in a very unique way while marketing their business. And it's also to inspire you watching the replay, listening to the podcast, to share your stories, so that we know you, so that we want to buy from you. So Michelle, welcome. Tell us who you are and where you are connecting from.
Hi, thanks for having me here today, Angelique. My name is Michelle Hurlburt. I am actually sometimes my mouth goes faster than my brain, or my brain goes faster than my mouth. It can be interchangeable. But so I'm connecting from Yarmouth, Nova Scotia in Canada, and I'm very happy to be here. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
Yeah, and so let's dive in before we go to the story, so that we can have a perspective on all the beautiful stories you're going to share with us. Tell us more about who you serve as a female entrepreneur.
Well, that has kind of been part of the journey, and I don't know if we'll get into this as we go through, or if you have questions that you're going to ask. But who I serve right now is our entrepreneurs. Entrepreneur starts with E. I serve educators. And that's where the other part of my story comes in, is that when I first started my business, I was focused on ambitious women entrepreneurs and leaders. And as I've grown and as my business has evolved and as I've evolved, I ended up coming back to my roots and have shifted my niche back to where I know my strengths and my value lies. So that's the mix up between the entrepreneurs and the educators.
Okay, so we'll talk more about that because Michelle, I always like to open the show with that question. So now you're a coach and you focus on helping educators, but tell us more about the little girl in you. What was she playing at or with when she was maybe 5 or 7? That could be kind of a sign of what's, catching up with you right now, being more clear about who you want to serve and stuff like that.
Well, that's a very interesting question. When I was a kid, I loved the outdoors. I loved going fishing. I loved playing softball. I loved being outside, and I was passionate about horses. I loved horses. I felt connected to them. I didn't actually get a horse until I was about 12 years old. But I loved their power and their beauty, and just there was something about their quiet and calm, but yet could be full of energy and playful and joyful. So yeah, that's a really interesting question that I've never thought of before.
I love that you talk about horses, because when I daydream about who I'm becoming, like when I'm going to be way much older, I'm going to have a horse because of that power that you feel with a horse.
Yes.
So do you have a horse now, Michelle?
I do not. I had horses. I ended up having multiple horses until I finished college, actually. And when I got my BED, I ended up moving overseas and working in Asia. And I ended up longer there than I had anticipated. So I ended up selling my horse because it was not fair to my mom to take care of him while I was gone.
Not easy to put in a suitcase.
No, definitely not. So
So that little girl who was an outdoor little girl, like what's left from this today how did you, the skills you learned by being so much in nature? And by the way, it's kind of my story too. I spent so much time, like when I was not studying for school, I was in the woods or in the field. My parents were farmers. So I love that you were outside. So what did you stick to? Like, what did you learn in the wild that you still use today?
well, I know how much being outdoors is important to me. In fact, I've come across a newfound passion, which I didn't really do a whole lot when I was growing up. You know, my mom had a few flower beds and things, but I have discovered gardening and you know, planting vegetable gardens, having a greenhouse, like creating flower beds and you know, making my yard beautiful, but digging in the dirt and having that, it's so grounding and it's so soothing for me when I'm feeling, because I can get the brain spin, and I can have a lot of things going on and feel like the to-do list is, you know, too long. I go out and I dig in the dirt, or I go out and I sit on you know, our bench or in the grass out behind our house and just be. And we have a lovely gazebo too that, you know, I will sit in and just listen to the birds sing and watch all of the activity that goes on in our backyard, because we have some flowers and things that birds are attracted to, and hummingbirds. But I also golf. I love to golf. I love the competitive nature, that one-on-one. I'm more competitive with myself than I am with my golf partner, but if I beat him too, that's great. But yeah, just that, the walking and the quiet and the rhythmic, the rhythm of golf is just, yeah, very soothing, very calming for me.
Okay, so that's how you reconnect as a coach when you need like to refill the cup. This is, you go and put your hands in the dirt, sit and connect again with nature, which was
Yes.
kind of your childhood story. I love
Absolutely.
this. I love this. So before 3D Life, you know, what was the most burning desire before you started your business? Do you remember?
Do you mean for starting my business in the first place, or?
Yeah, before
Okay.
you probably didn't have a business right away in your life, or maybe you did. Like, so what's the story of the before your business, I would say?
Right. Well, I have had a couple of businesses before 3D Life. I have been in the hospitality business and in the food service industry. When I lived in Asia, I opened with my family a Japanese and seafood restaurant, and so was a restaurateur for a bit of time. And when I moved back from Asia, I'm an educator by trade. So when I moved back from Asia, I lived there for 8 years. I was in South Korea for a year and a bit, and I was in the Philippines for about 6.5 years. And so when I moved back from Asia, I wasn't entirely sure that I wanted to jump right back into the public school education system. And so I opened a cafe, because that's what one does, right? When you're not sure if you want to continue with your career. And so I had a cafe in my hometown for a number of years, but I ended up getting back into education. And so I have been working in Nova Scotia as an educator since 2006. But I recently resigned from my position in March of this year, actually, to go full-time into my coaching business. So I know what it feels like to be an entrepreneur. I've been one a couple of times before, but I also have role models in my family. My mom has owned a store, a convenience store, for the last 42 years, is still working there, still has it. And my grandmother had her own bakery. And so for as long as I can remember, my grandmother's no longer with us, but for as long as I can remember, she always was baking something, and she bought her own storefront. And so I have some really good, strong women role models in the entrepreneur world as well.
So what did they teach you? Like, what did you get from them that you still apply today? Or if you feel that you're going on the side track, you go back to that teaching you got from them?
I think probably the biggest thing was that if you, as a woman, if you really want something, and you are clear on what that is, then you do it.
That's simple.
You just do it. Because you know that because you know it's going to be serving your community, or it's going to be serving, the world around you. So yeah, just do it.
Love it. So just do it. I love it, because you brought us you were back to the school teaching, and then it was stronger than, you said, I'm done. I'm putting up my businesses on pause, but now you're back at it. So what was the burning desire that you're like, no, I just can't be a school teacher. I have to go back to a business. What was that burning desire?
Well, I think it comes back to that serving my community, or serving, women, and I guess when I was in the education system, I loved being a teacher. I loved the work that I was doing. I changed roles a number of times because I felt, for me, that there was something missing. Again, I loved my students. I loved the relationships that I built with them, and many of my colleagues I really enjoyed working with. But there was something within what I was doing that wasn't quite meeting my fulfillment needs. And that was, we were so focused on curriculum outcomes and trying to get students to make these good grades. And so they had this academic success and achievement, but we weren't focused enough on their mental health and well-being, how successful they were in their friendships and their relationships, what else was going on around them to help them with their social skills, and given them a sense of safety and belonging within the school system. Now, while that is something that has become more prominent and it's a bigger message now, at that time, I wasn't feeling that I was serving my purpose well enough by being in front of a class, trying to get them to learn outcomes. Wow. And so I knew that there was more in me to give and to do. So I did end up becoming a behavior intervention resource teacher, which was within the education system, my niche. I have a soft spot for students who have a hard time kind of managing their emotions. And so when a social and emotional learning coach position came up in our local school board, it was something that I knew I had to apply for, and thankfully was successful at getting. So for the last 5 years, I've been working as a social and emotional learning coach, working with teachers and schools to help implement a social and emotional learning program where kids could learn more about self-awareness and managing their emotions, problem solving, being a better friend, and developing stronger, healthier relationships. But there still was something missing. There still was something that wasn't jiving with me. And that was just how I was. There were certain things I was able to do, and there were certain things I was not able to do, just based on the restrictions and the way that the education system is set up. So the coaching had been something that I'd wanted to do for a long time. I knew that at some point I would become a life coach. And leadership is something that I'm very passionate about as well. So life and leadership coaching was really my thing. And I started my business in 2019. And it started out with a different name. It used to be called Keep It Simple Coaching and Consulting. But as I said, as I've grown and evolved and changed my focus to better suit what fuels me and better serve who I want to serve, and that name changed to 3D Life.
Yeah. Dear listeners, you see again and again, we just have guests that the world needs all the time. My God, what you just shared is just amazing. We need you everywhere, in all the schools.
Well, thank you.
God. Oh, it's so dear to my heart. I am a mom, I told you that. And it's not easy to go through the school system because of that lack of 3D.
Right.
Well, curriculum versus who you are becoming, right, especially as a teenager.
Yeah. Well, and so my focus is on educators, because what is good for students is also good for adults. We're really just big kids. And so if we haven't had, and I really focus on, 3D Life is about that, my philosophy of, we're so often on autopilot. We're so often just going through the motions. And I like to describe it as kind of being on a two-dimensional plane. And we're really not meant to live flat and two-dimensionally. We're really meant to live whole and robust and true to ourselves. And in that kind of like 3D, that 3D idea. And when I focus on educators in their personal growth and their professional growth and well-being, then I'm helping them feel more fulfilled and maybe more effective in the work that they're doing, but also at home. Because I truly believe that there's work-life integration that needs to be considered as opposed to work-life balance. We're not one person, or we are one person, but when we walk through the door at work, we don't shut off our personal life. We don't shut off what's happened in the morning. That still impacts the rest of our day. And so, and vice versa, we have, when we come home from work, we don't just shut everything down. How our day has impacted us is going to impact how we show up at home too. So rather than being kind of double, I like to say, feeling like you have a dual identity, that you're supposed to be two people, I like to look at how do we integrate the two, and realize that bringing you authentically, true to you, wholeheartedly, to your work and your home is going to ultimately help students, because how you show up at work and how you show up at home is going to, the more alignment there is with those values and the beliefs that you have, the better you're going to be able to serve students.
I love this because, it really speaks to even social media love values, which is nothing to do with teachers. But my mission is to really help women to have that holistic approach to social media, so that you're not one person on social media and then completely different, outside of social media. And so it's hard to bring that in your life, right? Those all those hats we have, and how do you bring that in a way that is just one way, like just the one version of you? So I love this. So what is the thing that people, your clients, tell you the most once they started to work with you? What is the thing that comes back all the time? They tell you, Michelle?
I think I know that one of the most common comments or reactions to when they start working, once we get a few sessions in, is they're so amazed with how powerful it is to do this work. It's for themselves personally, because it is a lot of, in the beginning, it's a lot of self-awareness. It's a lot of honing and enhancing your self-awareness skills and knowing who you are, what you truly want, what you're passionate about, what you're interested in, what motivates you. We really dig deep into, where you're at and where you want to go. And there's a lot of power a lot of empowerment, I guess I should say, too. And so they start to, they say that they start to realize more, their thoughts. They start to realize more how they are showing up in no matter where they're at. But it's that this is so much more powerful than what I thought it was going to be. Comment that I get most often.
Wow, that's awesome.
Mm.
So now you're there. You kind of, and I really appreciate how you describe that each step of the way, even if you go back to Asia, you listen in,
Mm-hmm.
you connect to you and your, I don't know how you call it, your inner voice, or
so your intuition, that gut feeling.
Okay.
Is so important.
Tell me more about that. How did you realize that it was something that is kind of centered of everything you're going to decide or choose in your life? And how do you teach that to others who are more like, maybe I'm going to go by the rule, or I'm going to listen to my fears, and, tell us, maybe give us a tip if you want.
Part of it is recognizing and believing that you have the answers within yourself. Many times we are so focused on the external. We're so focused on who's around us and what's around us or what we have in our possession that we look to those things or those people for our own validation or our own sense of value. And so we often will ask other people, if we're thinking about doing something, we often ask other people, well, what do you think about this idea? Or should I do this or should I do that? But when you can learn to just sit quietly and just take a couple of deep breaths, it takes maximum of 2 minutes to just sit and say quietly to yourself. You can close your eyes if you want to or not, and just say, what do I really want to do here? What do I want? There's a sense, and it's a hard thing to describe, but there is a feeling, there's an answer that comes. And it doesn't mean that there won't be fear associated with it, because it's scary to do new things, or it's scary to take a chance. But there is that feeling that you get, and you're like, what do I really want? Or how do I really want to show up here? And there's just something within each of us that will tell us that. And even, it's almost like, have you ever had someone give you advice? You've told them what you want to do, and then suddenly they start pouring on the advice, and they say, oh, you should do this and you should do that. And, oh, what about that idea? And while you're nodding your head saying, yeah, okay, yeah, that's a good idea. We're being polite, but inside there's something kind of pushing back on it. There's something that kind of says, okay, that's what because that's what they would do. It might not be what you would do. And so some advice or some ideas we'll take and we'll use because it aligns with us. It matches us, what we would do. But other things, we're just like, no, that's not it. And it's that voice, it's that feeling that you can get just sitting quietly and like settling for a couple of minutes and then saying, what do I want here?
Thank you. That was gold. Gold. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. And that this is, it feels so powerful, right? To get to that sense of who we are and trusting and believing ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's
absolutely.
a practice. I agree. It's a practice. Yeah, because we have automatism like, oh, I'm going to ask. Oh, I'm going to ask. And then yeah.
But it's learning to trust. It's learning to trust yourself that, you know, maybe you don't have all of the skills or the knowledge that you'd like to have, but you do know if you want to do something or not. You do know if you want to be something or not. And again, there will be emotions that come up. There will be fear. There may be fear. There may be a sense of hesitation because you're not sure. There's uncertainty, but uncertainty helps us grow. Uncertainty helps us get closer to that 3D life ideal, and live and feel like we're, you know, pushing some of our limits and pushing some of our, getting out of our comfort zone.
Thank you so much for sharing this. So I don't want to keep you too long, but so now you're at that level of awareness about the things you really want to do right now in your life.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's very fresh. And I read your post about how you took the leap of saying goodbye to your position at the school and then go full for your mission as a coach. So what would you say, or do you remember that day or that moment where you felt the first big payoff of your choice? So it doesn't have to be financial, it can be, but it could be anything. What was the thing you said, okay, that's why?
I think probably that day, and I don't know if it was an actual day or if it was just kind of a time period. It was really more, it's probably about 3 months after I had resigned, because there's always a little bit of, I've never had that sense of, oh my gosh, what did I do? And I think that was probably my biggest sign was I've not ever felt, oh, maybe I made a mistake here. That's never come up. I had a plan. I knew what that plan was. I, you know, made sure that I was going to be okay, whether I made any money in my first 6 to 12 months or not. But I knew I was going to be okay. I had a strategy. It wasn't just oh, I'm going to resign from my job. Poof. That didn't happen. But I had a plan, and I knew that even after, like I said, I still haven't had that feeling of, oh gosh, maybe I made a mistake. And I think that's like I said, I don't think there was one particular day, but I think that's my biggest sign is, no, I know I have work to do. I know what my purpose is and what my vision is for the work that I'm doing. So, and it's to serve, it's to bring awareness and well-being to as many educators as I possibly can. So that they can make an impact on the world around them and in their classrooms and in their schools. And yeah, I know this to be true.
I love it. So tell me, Michelle, because you seem to be so aware, like you've been doing the work of personal development like for years and decades now. So when you talk, like I always ask a question about, as a woman in business, what is your biggest fear?
Gosh, that's a great question. My biggest fear. I think probably my biggest fear is just not reaching enough people, not getting to have the impact I know that I can have with people. Yeah, I think the biggest fear is just not fulfilling my mission or fulfilling my purpose.
Yeah. Okay. And so
Yeah.
I know you know that it's a fear, and it doesn't mean that it's true, right? So
No. Yeah.
how do you go around your fears? Like, do you have habits, or do you have protocols, or if some days they're louder than others, how do you handle your fears?
I think with this one, it's basically one thought, and if I have that fear of oh, I'm not getting in front of enough people, or I don't feel like I'm making a big enough impact, or whatever it may be, it's my one thought is small, small, small. James Clear, the Atomic Habits author, start small, remember small, 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 and it's one person at a time. And that's okay. I'm still making a difference to that one person, and so that's how I push that out of my that fear away.
Yeah.
It's yes, it's still there, but it's not realistic.
Love it. I hope everybody takes notes here, because it's just, I love how you describe what you change your thoughts basically, and then I haven't read that book yet, but everybody's talking about it, so I should read that book. Yeah. Okay.
It's a good one.
So, Michelle, what is your relationship right now with social media, and how do you use social media to amplify your voice?
Well, I'm connected on LinkedIn and Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So I do have a variety of platforms that I use. Some of them I use more, like I'm more active. I tend to be more active on Instagram and on LinkedIn, but Facebook is pretty close. Twitter is actually a place that I just this morning said, and I've had Twitter for a long time, but I haven't used it as much as I could as a coach, and particularly as a coach for educators, and I don't know why, because Twitter is an amazing place for educators. So I just said to myself this morning, okay, Michelle, you need to get on that Twitter band, and not Twitter band, that Twitter.
We need to connect on
what's
Twitter.
The word I'm looking for? Yes.
I don't know, the Twitter wagon.
The Twitter wagon. Yes, that's what it is. I was thinking bandwagon, right? So the Twitter band. No, the Twitter wagon.
Yes, yeah, we should connect there. We'll put a link to your interview on Twitter so that you can share it too.
Terrific. Yes.
Yes. And so yeah, amplifying, you're everywhere. I see you everywhere. I read your post everywhere. So I know you're using social media in a way, and you're so you're like that. You share a lot of how you feel and how what you go through and how you help people. So what's going on right now in your business that you want the world to know, especially educators, how they can contact you, and do you have specific stuff you want them to know right now if they're watching the replay or listening to the podcast?
So I probably the easiest way to get in touch with me. I'm really, like I said, I'm very focused on, and I've said it for a long time. I felt like a broken record when I was working with in my position in the education system. But I said it so many times. What about the adults? What about how are we taking care of them? How are we ensuring that they're okay so that they can be okay with our students? And so, I really am focused on helping educators feel more connected to, feel more inspired by the work that they're doing. But it does start with self. It does start with us as people. You have to go inward before you can have the impact that you want to have outward. So that's probably the biggest message I would have for any educators who watch. I really am about you, so that you can be available for students. So But if you want to reach out to me, go to my website, michelhurlburt.com. But again, I'm on multiple social media platforms, so you can find me there as well. And I'd love to start a conversation.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing this with us and your time. So we've been together for more than half an hour. One more thing I want to know, what is the thing that I should have asked you that I didn't ask you, and you can talk about it?
Oh boy. Let's see. What didn't you ask me? You had some really interesting questions. I'm having a hard time thinking of something right now. I don't know. I guess, in terms of what I offer for services, I have a couple of coaching programs. They're kind of like level 1, level 2. Level 1 is called Clear, Confident, and Committed. And it's really focused on the personal growth of the people I work with. And then I have level 2, which is articulate, authentic, and amplified. And that's really, really more about the workplace and using the personal growth into and integrating it into the professional. So really taking those work-life integration and really enhancing that in the second program. But you can book a clarity call with me. It's a 45-minute free call as well, that just to kind of get you, looking at what could be a next step for you. No obligation, of course, but it's those are the easiest ways to connect, and those are the services I offer at the moment.
Awesome. Thank you for clarifying this. 2 options. Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle, and thank you for watching and listening. Also in the comments what resonates the most with you, and or private message, even Michelle or me, and just make sure you connect, because we are women who love find our fulfillment in connection. I can feel that too with you too, Michelle. And
thank you.
And so let us know in the comments or private message us, and let us know what really helped you and what you want to hear more about, because I don't know you, but I feel so inspired to feel you have that grounding effect, Michelle.
Thank you.
I don't know if you know, I'm sure you do, but oh my God, your students or your clients are probably loving that part, because you are like so clear about what life is about. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you. I appreciate your time, and again, want the opportunity to be here. So thanks
awesome. Thank you to all of you. I'm gonna switch here. Bye-bye Instagram. I'm gonna record that before and now. Share to IGTV before it goes away. That's us here. And then bye YouTube and the podcast. Ciao, ciao.